Hey, this is John from Whatifi, and in this video I'm going to give you a sneak peek at our upcoming release for later June. We're going to be attending Collision Conference in Toronto, which is one of the largest startup conferences in the world, and our goal is to have a new release ready there for part of our Alpha Booth demo show. So off the top here, just as a quick recap, Whatifi is a highly visual, if this then that style financial scenario builder. We make it easy for financial decision makers, founders, CFOs to visually create, calculate, and share what-if scenarios, all in real time, no formulas, no spreadsheets. So secret sauce in our application is this visual builder where you can connect together building blocks here to calculate and create these scenarios. So for example, here I've got a little demo one. This is the ability to transfer and model out customer conversion cohorts. Website visitors to trial visitors to paid to pro, all along that stack. So what have I got here? I have got a customer event here. In the customer event, I'm able to establish these initial cohorts: website visitors, trial users, paid users, and pro users, for example. That funnels downstream to a growth event, which is the number of new users that are coming into the application here. And I can say I've got 200 users coming in every month, and I'm going to grow that 15% month over month with SEO or traffic or paid ads. Then I've got 2% of my users that transfer. So this is one of our new events called a transfer event, where I'm saying on every given month over this time range, I want to transfer from one cohort, website visitors, to another cohort, trial users. And I'm going to transfer 2% of those users per month on things. And then I have another transfer event that is 20% trial to paid. I have another event here, bypassed, which is paid to pro, saying 10% that's there. I have a pricing event where I have two different plans. I have my paid plan for $50 a month, and I have my pro plan for $200 a month. That funnels into a revenue event, which calculates pro users and the pricing, paid users and the pricing. And that now we have also one of our newer events here too, a KPI event. There's only a few in here so far, but I can do things like calculating average revenue per user, or lifetime value, or LTV to CAC ratios, things like that. So I now have that in here. So what I'm able to do, I am able to now calculate both of these threads concurrently and compare with different kind of growth scenarios here. I can see what the dollar value change between those are, what that means to my cumulative cash flow between those. Or down here on the graph, well, we used to just look at cash flow and see what our cash flow is going to look like monthly or cumulatively in these two models. I can also now look at things like customers to see what my customer count's going to be across all those cohorts. And now things like ARPU. And I can look at my average revenue per user and how it changes over time as different calculations play out. So we're not just a projections platform, we're actually an analytics platform at the same time too there. So that is, to start with, that's some of our new events in here, a customer transfer event, and also our KPI event. So now let me pause and hop over to and load up another screen here for you. Okay, so in this example here, I'm going to talk about one of our newer events. It's in rougher shape right now, but it's coming along nicely. This is an instance event. So here's the use case. Say you have something like a contract, and that contract is going to be, say, $90,000, right? It's all fine to put one contract in, but what if you now need to replicate that contract across the timeline? Maybe you are landing 2 or 3 of this contract in this month, or 5 in this month, or 7 in this month. How do you easily copy and paste that in a framework like ours to spread those out over time, still be able to make changes to that first initial event, and see that ripple through the rest of the timeline? So here we have a debit credit event, and we're saying something is $90,000. It's a one-time cost, and we have an example of it here in April 1st of 2022. We can then use our instance event. An instance event allows me to pick an upstream event, like that debit credit event, and I can now set a cadence. So I want to say every quarter, I want to instance 2 of those events, starting in September 1st and going to September 1st of 2024. So what does that give us? If I remove the bypass of this, you'll see now that I'm taking that one $90,000 expense, and every quarter I'm putting 2 instances of that event here over time, and we're able to look at that in real time, how that calculates across this particular sort of flow. Taking this further, we're now working on this concept called groups. So I could group 3 or 4 events together. Maybe something's revenue, maybe something is an expense. I can offset their time and then instance that entire bucket of events across the timeline wherever we sort of see fit. So it's all very procedural, so I can go back in here very easily and say, well, what if this is actually $95,000? I update this one event, and you'll notice that all the subsequent events are now double that 95,000 times 2. So that's the instance event. We're going to have it ready for collision as well. Super, super powerful and how that can help us model some things. One of the other big things you may have noticed here is our UI. So if we do a little trip down memory lane, this is what our UI used to look like. Fairly clunky first sort of version of our software there. Not pretty at all. In our new UI, you're able to much easily understand what you can do at given stages here. We put in some guardrails to make sure you can't accidentally break scenarios. It's just a much easier interface to be able to copy and paste and insert new events into our software. And the last thing we're going to touch on is sort of a pro feature here. It's some of our more powerful under the hood. It's the concept of modifiers, and now we've also included overrides. So traditionally what happens in a scenario right now is you put in a value and you spread it over a period of time. So here is a debit of $2,000 starting in September, and it's expense, and it's just going to spread evenly $2,000 a month over time. The reality, though, is that's not necessarily how things will really work. I mean, and there may be fluctuations or manual things that you need to be able to do. It's not always going to be as clean as $2,000. So let's bypass this event. Let's instead bring this event online. And here you can see we also have those $2,000, and I can add some overrides. So for example, I can say, well, maybe on this given date, this is actually going to be $3,500, and maybe on this given date, this is actually going to be $8,200. And we can commit those, and what you'll see now is when I unbypass this, you'll see your standard $2,000 a month, and then you will also see these 2 spikes. Those values are overridden on those given months. What's cool, though, is this stuff is stackable. So the power of a modifier is a modifier allows you to take any property in an upstream event and globally modify that. You can add a percentage increase to it, you can add a dollar increase to it, you can offset a value, and relatively soon you'll also be able to compound grow a value. So let's take a look at that. Here I'm saying, okay, well, what I want to be able to do in this event is I want to take that debit event with the overrides, and I want to do a percentage change of 200%. So if I add this in now, you will see that this value, everything is now increased. So what was 2,000 is now 6,000, and the overrides have also scaled along accordingly. They're also stackable, so I can now take this additional override, which is a $6,552 increase, and I can now open this one up and see this. Now keep in mind, this is not getting triggered until November 17th of 2022, so it's further down the line. And when I unbypass that, you'll now also see that stacking happening as well. So you're not seeing that 6,552 earlier. It is now getting applied effective November as well. So what does this mean? It is a highly procedural workflow that allows you to make micro adjustments in your calculations that are non-destructive, and any calculation can be modified or overridden, but continue to calculate and flow elegantly through for easy updating and scenario changes. Let me just sort of say that back to you again. Maybe I can kind of go back into this one, and if I want to change this to be $4,000, for example, let's pick something really round about $9,999. All right, I can update this value now. And now everything is a byproduct of $9,999, but those overrides still exist. So we still see the $3,500 here and the $8,200 as part of that stack. Again, this one's a little bit more complicated, but it is an incredibly powerful feature that allows CFOs, founders, decision makers to really push and pull very specific numbers around and understand what that means to your end calculations and your profitability.